ever spent hours travelling abroad to go and see your favourite artistic masterpiece firsthand and then spending longer in the line trying to get in? Welcome to Gallery Rage.
We all wanted everyone to be able to see everything, and now we realise that actually we're reducing the experience to a nightmare.
Plus, we pack our tents and get on board the travelling music circuit. And
volcanic ash returns to haunt us. What help can you expect from your airline when your flight vanishes in a cloud of dust?
Hello and welcome to Fast Track. I'm Rajan Datar. Now I'm in Barcelona and about to join the line for the Sagrada Familia, the world-famous cathedral designed by the architect Gaudi and perhaps his signature creation. It's very popular. Every day 6,000 people file in and out of this building. Now I don't know how long I'll be waiting in the queue for, but what I do know is all around the world people are experiencing that same frustration and some are getting a bit angry.
The world is a vampire sent to drain.
there are thousands of art galleries and museums around the world, like the Picasso Museum here in Barcelona, but the elite few are pulling in visitors like never before. Coachloads of tourists spill out and flock to popular so-called blockbuster exhibitions, must-sees on any tourism checklist. In New York, over 8 million a year file through its 2 modern art museums alone.
I happen to work across from the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and the Alexander McQueen exhibit has had lines nearly 2 hours long, and I was told that if you get to the museum before it opens, you have a chance of getting in under an hour.
My experience of the Louvre was a little bit chaotic, just the fact that everyone was standing around the Mona Lisa. It was very hard to get a look at her and take photos because it was a very hustle and bustle.
The Louvre in Paris is the world's most visited gallery. 8.5 million people a year come to witness classic works up close, but not close enough for some.
What's the point of going to see the Mona Lisa when actually it's 50 deep and people are photographing and there are bodyguards and you can't even go to it very closely? It is a real tragedy for people now growing up, from school children to adults, who will never see a painting properly, like the Mona Lisa, unless they are going after hours or pay lots of money to see it privately.
And it's not just the experts who are getting frustrated. Tim is a long-time art lover, but has given up going to the big galleries. He finds the experience claustrophobic, uncomfortable, and ultimately futile.
Some people take these fold-up seats, and I think it's to give them space, really. It's not really to sit down, it's just to give themselves a bit more space. There's mobile phones being used to capture the image, and sometimes you see people even with small pairs of binoculars because you can't get close enough. So it's a bad experience.
In London, this whole issue reached a head when the record-breaking Gauguin exhibition earlier this year at the Tate Modern was criticised for being overcrowded.
During the run, it became a sensation, which is fabulous for the Tate, but of course more and more people couldn't really see the art, and that's the real challenge, is how do we get people to see great art?
So, do gallery bosses understand these complaints, and indeed gallery rage? Yes, they say.
It means people getting frustrated and feeling that they can't do what they came to do, and that perhaps the people around them who work in the institution are not necessarily responding in the way that they would like. And we're getting a very high number of people, averaging on just over 3,000 people a day. Now, because it's free, you're not regulating the number of people who are going in. You don't necessarily know how long they're going to spend in there. And so at times, and this happened last weekend on Saturday afternoon, our visitor services colleagues felt that the exhibition was at its peak.
But art is also business, and about maximising revenue when the big shows do come along.
A lot of institutions are putting on, I would say, blockbusters to bring in money or to get prestige.
You're quite hostile. I got a right to be hostile, man. My people being persecuted.
To call this gallery rage is, of course, poetic licence, but experts say there are issues of helplessness, loss of control and frustration with being part of a herd.
It's definitely very quick anger. And it's quite often seen in very patient people. It's a passive-aggressive behaviour, so the trigger mechanisms are quite subtle at first. It's irritation, it's tetchiness, it's edginess. And then it's sort of, rather than it building up slowly, it literally explodes.
I don't get gallery rage, I get gallery depression. Quite a few institutions allow tourists to photograph things, which I think is madness. Why on earth are we allowing people to photograph it when the postcards are far better?
So what's the solution? Pre-booking, rationing, paying higher charges, or forgetting about the trip of a lifetime altogether? Well, tick all of the above, apparently.
One of the things you know about visitors, we know, is that you are slower in your visit at the beginning. You're orientating yourself, you're beginning to get into the visit, and therefore you take more time generally at the beginning than you necessarily do at the end. There would be things that, as a gallery, you could do about that. You could have the first rooms not quite so densely hung, to get people sort of moving through a little quicker.
Of course, you could try and beat the system. Don a safety jacket and stroll around efficiently like you're on your way to fix a drain or save a lost child. Or better still, look like you own the place.
Despite all my rage,
There are more reasonable responses to gallery rage, mind you. For the hugely anticipated exhibition with more than 60 paintings and sketches by Leonardo this winter at London's National Gallery, directors have decided to introduce capping of numbers to below the legal limit. But they've also added extra viewing hours.
To see Leonardo's in the flesh is a rarity. And so, of course, people are going to want to try and do that, because seeing something face-to-face is very different from seeing it in a book or online. So one has to understand that this will continue. It's about how we manage it.
They do tend to hype them up. They do tend to, market them to, to the limit. Maybe they could just, pull back a little bit on the marketing.
They should actually move the art out to a purpose-built building right into the suburbs with huge car parks. And I'm not joking, because otherwise these galleries are simply the wrong size. They're actually, they are medieval, and some of them are 18th and 19th century galleries in Western Europe. They're the wrong shape and the wrong size.
And perhaps we should lower our expectations.
So, what do you think? Do you see red when you visit a gallery and you're surrounded by crowds of other tourists? Or is that the price you have to pay to see classic works of art?
The issue of too many tourists was also the focus of a recent fast-track report on Barcelona. It caught the imagination of many of you, particularly those living in the city.
I really think that Barcelona is being spoilt by mass tourism. It's becoming a leisure city for foreigners whilst losing its historic personality.
I recognise some, but definitely not all of what's been said. It's like putting a camera team at Piccadilly Circus and saying, hey, lots of tourists here. As soon as you go one street off the beaten track, you'll find a Barcelona that's authentic, much cheaper and much more fun.
Whilst some felt the problem had nothing to do with tourism.
You've managed to point out brilliantly what is happening in Barcelona, but unfortunately it has nothing to do with the theme you have focused on. The correct theme would be gentrification in Barcelona, the destruction of bohemian lifestyle which made the city the success it is.
The email, as always, is fasttracktravel@bbc.co.uk, so please do get in touch so that we can share your story.
Right, let's see what else is making news in the world of travel this week.
Airport security officials in America have announced that they will be modifying body scanner software to protect passenger privacy. Currently, the scanners produce an image of a passenger's naked body, but under the new plans, this will be replaced by a generic outline of a person. Thousands of tourists have been affected by taxi drivers striking in the streets of Athens. Roads to ports and the city's airports were blocked, meaning many visitors missed connecting flights and were unable to visit tourist attractions. The drivers are protesting against government plans to reform licensing regulations. And a giant slide at Overvecht station in the Netherlands is helping train passengers get to their platform on time. The designers are calling it a transfer accelerator and hope it will make travelling through the station a more enjoyable experience.
Don't go away, because coming up after the break, Simon Calder is here to take on your travel woes while we strap on the air guitar, turn the volume up to 11 and take a tour around Europe's festival circuit. So see you after the break.